To have a long career, that's the goal, to be in the league for 20 years. I tell you, that's the goal.
Garvis Gilmore told me one time, he played for Chicago, he said, if you expect to play a long time in this league, you better quit mopping up the floor. And I thought, well, he's crazy, because that's what basketball's all about.
Bird takes it away from Wilkins, goes to the floor and gets it up ahead.
And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Larry Bird isn't someone who speaks often these days, but when he does, the basketball world listens. The same cold-blooded competitor who built a Hall of Fame career by letting his game do all the talking has been quietly watching the modern NBA's greatest debates play out from the sidelines. He's stayed in the background while today's stars trade arguments about who truly belongs at the top. But according to those close to the Celtics icon, something Kevin Durant said on LeBron James's podcast finally pushed Bird to his breaking point.
Yeah, I'm 10, 12 years in, I got 4 MVPs and 4 championships, but do I still want to do this shit? You know what I'm saying?
You know how hard it is.
Some people say, I want to go play baseball.
And what he's reportedly saying behind closed doors is the kind of truth every real basketball fan needs to hear. It all started on LeBron's Mind the Game podcast. Durant was seated across from LeBron, deep in a conversation about long careers and what genuine greatness demands in today's NBA. Then Durant made a comment that seemed innocent on the surface, but carried a much heavier message underneath. He brought up Michael Jordan's 1993 retirement, leaning back with a knowing smirk on his face.
You know, my father just passed. We just finished our 3rd championship season where, we had a lot of different personalities, going against each other. And
individual goal was that Magic, Bird, Isaiah never did this. So that meant a lot to me to do it for the 3rd time, yes. I won't say that I'm better than those people.
Some people say, I want to go play baseball, Durant said, flashing that unmistakable look. LeBron erupted into laughter almost immediately, and the camera captured every moment of it. Those two knew exactly what they were doing. The implication was clear, that Jordan walked away from basketball like it had simply worn out its welcome, like he got tired and opted for something easier. Meanwhile, LeBron has been competing at the highest level for more than 20 years. The message wrote itself. Longevity equals toughness. Staying in the league means more dedication than someone who stepped away. But here's why that narrative is deeply disrespectful, and why Larry Bird reportedly couldn't sit silent any longer.
I competed hard. I played the game the way it was supposed to be played. I played injured, and I played with a lot of pride. So I owe everything to the NBA.
Michael Jordan, the Magic Johnsons, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley's, we earned what we got. When the corporate America came to us, we had a game that could validate their admiration
and sponsorship and all that, yeah.
Now they get that before they play one game.
Yeah.
So you're rolling the dice to see if this kid's ever going to be good or not.
Yeah.
So in essence, you're paying the kid off of potential.
Yeah.
That he may be great.
You don't think that's good?
No, because I think it sets bad work ethic. When you get something so easily, you're not going to work as hard.
That casual joke wiped out the real story of what actually happened in 1993. Jordan didn't just decide one morning that basketball had lost its appeal. That summer, his father, James Jordan, the man who had been the driving force behind his entire journey to greatness, was tragically murdered in a robbery. And just like that, Michael Jordan had just capped off his 3rd consecutive championship, standing at the absolute peak of his career. And he walked away from the NBA to grieve, to heal, and to honor his father's memory by pursuing a dream they had once shared together, professional baseball. So when Durant casually drops that baseball line with that smirk on his face, he isn't telling a harmless joke. He's taking one of the most painful chapters of Michael Jordan's life and turning it into a punchline.
What's happened to the rivalries in today's game? They
don't hate each other.
That's
they don't like. See, I hated Larry and every Celtic. I really don't like you, but you my little brother. Now I love you because you out of that green and white. That's what it was, right? You the Celtics, Lakers hate each other, disliked each other. So it made for great TV and people tuning in. And now with, I don't know if it's AAU, I don't know what it is. Now everybody's shaking each other's hand. Everybody like each other, won't go at each other like really hard. Even that's what happened to the All-Star game. See?
Yeah.
See, the All-Star
carried into the All-Star game. Right there.
See, we hated the East.
Right.
I'm coming to bust you.
Right.
Michael, Isaiah, Dr. J. You can't have one over me. See, I'm coming to get that. Now,
see, this is what I
let
said.
them score 200 to 200. What is that?
LeBron and KD and Steve Nash did their little podcast thing, and they always drag the legacy
What
of
is it
Michael
called?
Jordan.
Is it called? Was it Cry Me a River?
Cry Me a River, I think.
Cry Me a River podcast? Oh my God. I tell you what, man, listen. I was watching
Revisionist history, they should call it.
Yeah, you know what, Mark? Great players don't have to tell people they're great.
Yeah.
You
That's true.
You let fans do that. You let people debate it on talk radio and podcasts. You know, players don't have to do that. You know, that we all know you're great. You don't have to tell us. You know, when you have to go around trumpeting that you're great and what separates you from all the other people that makes you greater than them, that's a problem. You know, that's a problem. That's why I say it's a Cry Me a River podcast, because you're crying and moaning about what they said. And they were kind of sneak dissing MJ. If you really listen between the lines, you know, they were talking about, Kevin Durant was talking about how longevity is more important than rings and all that other stuff. Being in the league basically for 20 plus years shows the dedication and the hard work that you had to do to stay here. But he failed to mention, you know, the load management and this guy only playing in no more than 3 times in his career, you know, 82 games in a season.
Yeah, right.
LeBron's only played 1 time 82 games in a season. MJ 9 times in his career played 82 games, plus playoffs and championships that goes into 115 games. So to listen to these guys discredit the former players and how great they were to you know, basically step on top of them to get themselves higher is really sad.
He's weaponizing a tragedy, twisting it to make Jordan appear soft compared to players who simply stayed in the league longer. And LeBron sitting right beside him, laughing along, made it even more striking because it looked like he was fully co-signing the whole thing. That was the moment Larry Bird reportedly said it had crossed a line, because Bird understands better than most what it means to compete through genuine pain.
But you have to really play hard. Does that hurt you physically?
No, because when I play hard all the time. You know, there's no turn it on here, turn it off here. It's just 110% all the time.
We come to practice, he's on one leg. Like he was hurt the second year, he was on one leg the whole year and played 82 games. And so he practiced every day and he played every game on one leg. And so you're like, man, MJ, why don't you just sit up? How can I be the leader of the team and sit out and y'all going through all the credit? I gotta be there.
I twist my ankle, and I had a teammate, David Greenwood. He says, you know, you twist your ankle, young fella, come over and sit with me. You know, this is, you need to. I said, no, man, I'm trying to make a name for myself. There's no way I can sit. You know, I need to get out there and show what I'm capable of. I want to play. I want to win. I want to make an impact.
He closed out his playing career battling back problems so severe that he had to lie flat on the floor before games just to get his body functional enough to take the court. He knows what it means to push through heartbreak, physical suffering, and enormous pressure. And he knows that Jordan's 1993 departure was not quitting. It was a profoundly human response to devastating loss. Now consider the moment Jordan walked away. Was it after a first-round exit? After a collapse on the final stage? Not remotely. Jordan stepped away immediately after completing a three-peat. 3 straight championships. Something Magic Johnson never accomplished. Something Larry Bird never accomplished. Something Isaiah Thomas never accomplished.
Like you mentioned a little bit about today's game, because we had Club on here and he talked about load management. He said, I don't know what the hell that is. Where is it going? And that's number one. And number two, how do we get it back?
Even for me, I love the NBA game, but then I turn on to a game, right? And then the stars are not playing because of load management. It's hurting the game.
You know, the fans are there to watch me play. I want to impress that guy way up on top who probably worked his ass off to get a ticket or to get money to buy the ticket.
You really cared about the guy who sat in the top deck at the Palace in Auburn Hills to watch you when you came to Detroit?
Yeah, because I know he's probably yelling at me and I want to shut him up. So if the guys are coming to watch me play, I don't want to miss that opportunity. Now, physically, if I can't do it, then I can't do it. But physically, if I can do it, and I just don't feel like doing it, that's a whole different lens.
Jordan climbed to the very summit of the basketball world, stood there alone, and then stepped back while carrying the heaviest grief of his life. That is not quitting. That is a man who was emotionally and mentally drained after bearing the weight of being the greatest on the planet while navigating unimaginable personal loss. Now here's where the irony becomes almost impossible to ignore. The man throwing shade at Michael Jordan is Kevin Durant, a superstar whose own team decisions have generated some of the most heated debates in NBA history. In 2016, Durant and the Thunder held a 3-1 series lead over the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. The series slipped away, they lost, and that offseason, Durant stunned the entire league by signing with the very same Golden State squad that had just eliminated him.
What do you think of when you hear the term load management thrown around?
It shouldn't be needed, first and foremost. You know, I never wanted to miss a game because it was an opportunity to prove. It was something that I felt like, you know, the fans are there to watch me play. I want to impress that guy.
You know, it's all about winning championships and winning.
A 73-win juggernaut already loaded with Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. To this day, that decision remains one of the most debated moves the sport has ever seen. And it didn't end there. When things unraveled in Brooklyn, Durant requested a trade rather than staying to rebuild. He landed in Phoenix, and when that situation didn't unfold as expected, reports surfaced that he was open to moving yet again. And this is the man taking aim at Michael Jordan's commitment, which is remarkable. Then there's LeBron. The first time Cleveland hit turbulence, he made his famous announcement and took his talents to South Beach, joining Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. When Miami began to decline in 2014, he returned to Cleveland. When that run concluded, he moved on to Los Angeles. Each time a situation showed signs of breaking down, he found the next destination that worked best for him. And look, changing teams is part of the business. Nobody disputes that. But you can't spend your career moving from one stacked roster to the next and then criticize Jordan for stepping away after a three-peat while grieving his father's murder. That isn't just disrespectful. It reflects a fundamental misreading of what that moment in history actually meant. And the podcast conversation didn't end with the baseball joke. Durant kept going, pushing this idea that the real benchmark for an NBA player should be lasting 20 years in the league. Not winning championships, not stacking MVPs, not dominating during your prime, not squeezing every ounce of talent out of your peak years, just staying around as long as possible. And LeBron sat there nodding like it was some profound insight, when in reality it sounded like a fundamental misunderstanding of what true greatness actually looks like. This is exactly where Jordan's entire philosophy dismantles their argument, and where Larry Bird's reported reaction cuts straight to the heart of the debate. Michael Jordan never chased longevity. He chased perfection. Every season carried a single mission: maximize himself, elevate his teammates, win championships, and dominate on both ends of the floor. Jordan played 15 seasons, but really only 13 full ones once you factor in the retirements. And across those 13 seasons, he collected 6 championships, 6 finals, MVPs, 5 regular season MVPs, 10 scoring titles, and 9 all-defensive selections. That isn't just impressive. That is as close to a flawless basketball career as the sport has ever produced. Now place Durant and LeBron side by side. Together, they have accumulated 39 seasons, nearly triple Jordan's prime years. And what does that entire stretch amount to? 6 combined championships, 5 regular season MVPs, 6 finals MVPs, 5 scoring titles, and 5 all-defensive selections. In nearly 40 combined years, they have accomplished less than what Jordan achieved in roughly a decade. Twice the time, half the output. Now let's talk mentality, because that is the real dividing line between these eras. When Jordan entered the league in 1984, he played all 82 games as a rookie. And he did it during an era when basketball was far more physically demanding. Teams traveled commercially. There might be one trainer, maybe one strength coach on staff, and back-to-back games were relentless. The schedule was punishing, yet players still showed up and competed every single night. In the 1999 to 2000 season alone, 58 players played all 82 games. Now compare that to today. The worst years for player availability in NBA history are happening right now in this decade. even though players have access to every possible resource imaginable. Private jets, full medical staffs, sports science departments, elite training centers, customized nutrition programs. And despite every advantage, players are taking the floor less than ever before. The reason? The mentality has fundamentally shifted. Jordan operated with a philosophy that shaped his every decision. He believed that being an NBA player was a privilege, not an obligation. He knew fans worked hard for every dollar they earned, saved up to buy those tickets, and arrived expecting to see the best compete. When someone making tens of millions of dollars sits out because they need a rest day, it feels like a direct insult to the people who sacrificed to be there. Jordan never approached the game that way. He respected it. He respected the fans who made his entire career possible. There's a well-known story from early in his career where Jordan twisted his ankle. A teammate suggested he sit down and recover. Jordan rejected that idea immediately. He said he was trying to build his name, that he needed to show what he was capable of, that he was there to make an impact. That same fire never left him, not even when he became the biggest star on the planet. He still showed up for the kids sitting in the upper deck in the cheapest seats in the building. Meanwhile, LeBron James has played a full 82-game season exactly once across his entire career. Once, players like Bird, Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, and even Allen Iverson accomplished that multiple times without making an issue. And here's the part that truly damages the league. When the face of the sport sits out, it sends a message throughout the entire organization. If LeBron can rest, why should anyone else feel obligated to play? That mindset spreads fast. Role players rest. Bench players sit. Before long, the whole league is treating regular season games as if they're meaningless until the playoffs begin, and the fans end up bearing the cost. They spend significant money on tickets, show up full of energy and excitement, and find half the marquee names sitting on the bench in street clothes. Kevin McHale put it perfectly when he noted that Jordan's era was different because Jordan set the standard. When Michael Jordan was the face of the NBA, players competed. They showed up. They played through pain because that was the expectation the job carried. Jordan himself missed 64 games in one season with a broken foot, and team management urged him to shut it down for the rest of the year. Jordan refused. He came back on limited minutes just to be on the floor. And when games reached the final 30 seconds, he demanded to be out there, not for stats, not for his personal legacy, but because he refused to let his teammates or the fans down. So what image comes to mind when you hear the words load management today? Players earning $95 million saying they can't play 4 days a week, refusing back-to-back games, scheduling rest days before the season has even tipped off, and fans are expected to simply accept it. You cannot ask people to spend hundreds of dollars on tickets when the stars they came to watch might not even step onto the floor. It is damaging the entire product. People tune in for a headline matchup and the biggest names are parked on the bench under the load management banner. That never would have happened in Jordan's era. It never would have happened in Bird's era either, because those players understood something the modern game appears to be forgetting. You earn everything you receive. You don't coast on potential or hype. You show up and prove yourself every single night. Jordan and Bird both played fewer than 15 full seasons each. Why? Because they gave everything they had every night, diving on the floor, locking up on defense, doing whatever it took to win. They weren't preserving themselves for year 20. They weren't thinking about longevity. They were thinking about tonight's opponent and this year's championship. They played with an intensity that burned brilliantly and ferociously. And no, that kind of fire doesn't sustain itself forever. That's precisely what makes it extraordinary. In those shorter careers, they achieved more than most players accomplish across 20 years. Today's players receive max contracts before they've logged a single NBA minute. They land million-dollar endorsement deals on potential alone. And while that's undeniably smart business, it fundamentally transforms the mindset. When everything arrives before you've earned anything, the hunger diminishes. The nightly drive to prove yourself fades away. Jordan and Bird came from an era where every dollar, every endorsement, and every ounce of respect had to be fought for and earned. Nothing was given. So when Durant says the real goal is playing 20 years, he's actually revealing the deepest difference between his generation and Jordan's. Jordan never cared about sticking around to collect checks. He cared about domination. He cared about being undeniably the best player on the planet. He cared about building a legacy no one could ever challenge, and he accomplished all of it across 13 full seasons. Durant and LeBron have nearly 40 combined years of service, and they are still chasing Jordan's shadow. Every debate circles back to him. Every all-time list still places him at the top. And no amount of longevity or accumulated statistics is ever going to change that. Now here's the detail that makes Larry Bird's reported reaction land so powerfully. NBC recently welcomed Michael Jordan back into the NBA media landscape. Why? Because even now, more than 2 decades after his final retirement, Jordan carries more influence and commands more attention than anyone suiting up in the league today. When Jordan speaks, the entire basketball world stops to listen. And when he talks about competing every night, respecting the game, and honoring the fans who make it all possible, that message resonates across every generation. That is Jordan's real response to Durant and LeBron. Not a podcast rant, not a post on social media, not a heated press conference statement. His answer is the simple, undeniable fact that he remains the most relevant name in basketball. His answer is the weight his legacy carries, heavier than any active player in the sport right now. And according to those close to him, this is exactly what Larry Bird has been expressing to friends and former teammates. Bird reportedly said that Jordan doesn't need to fire back because his career already speaks louder than anything Durant or LeBron could possibly say. The numbers speak. The championships speak. The way he played the game speaks louder than any debate ever could. Bird understands this better than almost anyone because he constructed his own legacy the exact same way. Through toughness, through showing up, through competing every single night, regardless of the pain or the circumstances. LeBron and Durant can laugh together on their podcast all they want. They can dismiss championships. They can joke about Jordan's baseball interlude. But the truth remains simple and unchanged. They are still being measured against him. They are still being compared to him. They are still working to convince the world they belong in the same conversation. And that fact alone says everything. Jordan never had to convince anyone of anything. He just showed up and proved it. Night after night, season after season, championship after championship. True greatness doesn't require 20 years to make its statement. Sometimes one run, one season, one defining moment is all it takes to remind the world what genuine dominance looks like. And Jordan delivered exactly that across 13 seasons. Durant and LeBron, with all their longevity and all their accumulated statistics, still haven't matched what Jordan accomplished in essentially a decade. That is an opinion. That is the record. That is history speaking plainly. So yes, Michael Jordan responded to Kevin Durant and LeBron James. And Larry Bird is standing firmly behind him. Neither man needed to mention Durant or LeBron by name to make their point. Their entire legacy, their mindset, and their relationship with the game. That was the response. And it lands louder than anything said on a podcast. Louder than every load management excuse. Louder than all the conversation about longevity. Louder than any joke about baseball. Because when the noise settles and history delivers its honest verdict, Jordan is still standing at the top, and everyone else is looking up, trying to imagine what it truly felt like to reach that level of greatness.